I personally don't have anything to sell you. If you do want to learn more, you can reach out to Huong, you can reach out to me, and we can have a conversation. I'll kind of give you a little bit more of a background about myself from the perspective of who I am and why Huong has allowed me to and given me the opportunity to share this information with you. Essentially, my name is Daniel Hanzelka. I have actually been in the financial industry for the last 24 years. I'm essentially, I called myself the recovering CFP. I was a financial advisor. I'm also an investor. I had a couple of investment properties that we had. We had a threeplex income property and a sixplex. But what I'm really doing today, and what I'm doing this and have done kind of for the last 4 years, is focusing on helping financial professionals to really grow their financial business, to get more connections, and primarily using LinkedIn as kind of the backbone of a way of how to build more relationships. I'm the CEO of Reset Global and Traffic and Pipelines, and both of these marketing six-figure agencies have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, primarily through LinkedIn. And that's really the key that we want to really impress upon you from the perspective of what LinkedIn is all about and what you can do with it. So really, we are here today to talk about how you can use LinkedIn to grow your real estate portfolio, and how you can kind of move and build more relationships on there. So let's jump right in. So first, I want you to understand that there really is a big difference in spending time on social media and investing time in the business that you're building. And really, let me explain what this means. You know what? LinkedIn is really not a social media platform like Facebook or Twitter or even YouTube, where a lot of people go on there and they spend a lot of time watching things and engaging and essentially swiping and moving from one story or one picture or one video to another. LinkedIn is way more powerful. It's really has been transformed into a marketing platform, and you can use it to connect with people. You can also use it for in internet marketing. And ultimately, it's more powerful than even Facebook. I'm sure a lot of you maybe have heard of Facebook ads. Actually, my business partner, who was Michael Kittinger, who actually was primarily working on Facebook ads before we got together, we had the conversation how he has spent over $100,000 a month on Facebook ads. And I told him that a lot of the things you're doing and spending money on ads on Facebook, you can do on LinkedIn, building relationships, and ultimately you can go out there and do it for free. So this is really what we're going to be talking about. So I want you to think about the fact that LinkedIn is a networking platform. LinkedIn essentially is there for you to connect with people and build relationships with them. And once you go and build that relationship, that gives you the opportunity to keep on building and nurturing that relationships. Ultimately, we know when you, in any business, you need to have a list of potential individuals that you want to go out there and build a relationship with. Well, if you don't have a way how to start that relationship, you never be able to go and grow your business or grow your portfolio, build and meet the people that you want to meet with. So making connections is important. And unlike other social media network, LinkedIn gives you the access to your connections email address. And this is partly the key. Not only when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, can you go and message them through the messenger on LinkedIn. Once you connect with them, you actually have access to their email address, which now allows you to start to build a list, to build a network, and build a way how you can actually communicate with those individuals. And in order to really communicate with individuals, you now need to go out there and build some type of a funnel or bring those connections to an offer. And the offer could just even be a conversation or a phone call that you want to have with that individual, or you can actually have an offer where, kind of like Huong has shared, she has this gift that she's going to give you at the end, something that you can actually give to somebody. So again, you keep on building that relationship, and you can, you keep on giving them, value. So ultimately, the way that you use LinkedIn is to get more connections, build partner opportunities, connect with other investors or other centers of influence. So I want you to encourage to really start to think about social media differently when you look at LinkedIn and how you can use it to significantly grow your real estate portfolio. Again, LinkedIn is one of the most powerful marketing platforms out there. And let me explain what I mean by that. LinkedIn has become the largest networking directory in the world. We're talking over 670 million people that are on the platform. And since Microsoft bought LinkedIn for $26 billion about 3 years ago, yeah, I said $1 billion. It's a huge investment that Microsoft has done. They have a goal of ultimately have 3 billion users on the platform. And the reason this is important is because I want you to think about LinkedIn as a massive database, because ultimately that's what it is. There is a lot of data that can be actually used. And from the perspective of how I want you to think about using this data, think about it more as opportunity to attract, more as farming versus hunting. What I really mean by that is that you need to culture, you need to really take care of and nurture the relationships that you build on LinkedIn. So often I speak with people, and the way they have used LinkedIn is they go and find somebody maybe they want to connect with or do business with, and right away they go into a sales mode. They try to sell them. They try to tell them, hey, look at me, I've got this great opportunity for you. That's not really how the platform is best used. What we really want to be doing with all of these potential connections that are on LinkedIn is to actually go on and build a relationship with them. And as we're going to go through this, I'm going to go a little bit more in details how to do that. But ultimately, what I want you to think about that the ideal connections that you want to connect with are on LinkedIn. When we look at some statistics, the average income on LinkedIn is roughly about, I think it's $118,000 per month compared to the average income of individuals that are on Facebook, which is about $55,000. But really what's more important here is that it's the type of connections that are actually on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is all about building that ultimate network of connections that can really help you to achieve your goals. Where, with the listeners that we have here, you are primarily looking to grow your real estate portfolio, where there are people that can be part of that journey for you that you can go and meet on LinkedIn. And you want to build that ultimate network where you essentially can connect with those individuals and have them reach out to you and start having those conversations. So what I want you to think about is really LinkedIn is not a social networking platform. And it's because it's different. It means that you essentially are using it to network on there. So don't think about it as a social. Facebook is more social, where people go there and they kind of socialize on it. They spend a lot of time on it. Often people that use LinkedIn are on there for a specific purpose. They might go on there, log on there several times through the day, but they usually go there for something. They're looking for somebody, or they're looking for more information, and they will go and do that. And really, in this day and age, I want you to think about this, is that when you meet somebody, probably the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go and Google your name. And LinkedIn has already done all of the SEO. If you go and Google your name right now, your LinkedIn profile will probably come on top of page 1. Because again, LinkedIn is using the power of their SEO and what they have been building for the years. So you can go and use that to your advantage, because when you go and meet somebody, they will go and Google your name, where your LinkedIn profile can serve as a way to actually market yourself. So when we start looking at this, I want you to think about LinkedIn when it comes down to attracting the right individuals as a huge trade show. I mean, especially right now because of COVID-19, we cannot go to trade shows, we cannot go to places where we can go and meet people, where LinkedIn has invited essentially, or gives the opportunity to invite every single person in the world to come to this large trade show. And as I talked about this before, the statistics are actually larger than I have the picture over here. There's over 670 million. So that's more than 500 million people that are on LinkedIn. that is a huge amount of individuals. And again, as we are in this ever expanding world, we're not often limited to geography as far as dealing with, and working with people or connecting with individuals within a certain geographic area. LinkedIn literally allows us to go out there and reach out the whole world. So, and most people that are on LinkedIn, they're out there looking to network and engage into a conversation. So this is really where the opportunity is. Everybody has been invited and has been given a trade show booth on LinkedIn. Essentially, this is your LinkedIn profile. Now, you've been given this, but everybody that maybe you're competing with has been giving this free trade show booth also. And that is the good news. But there are several important questions that I want you to start asking yourself. If you already do have a LinkedIn profile, okay, have you actually laid down the red carpet, as I would call it, on the concrete floor of your trade show booth? When LinkedIn was first introduced, I believe it was 2003, it was strictly set up as for somebody to go post their resume and go get a job. Well, that's no longer the case. As I've mentioned to you, start thinking about LinkedIn more as a database, okay? So you have an opportunity to actually inform people that you want to connect with, what it is that you do and where you are at. So, have you kind of taken that, profile that you have and done some things with it that it doesn't look like just like a resume, but it now looks more like a sales page, something that you're actually telling the people that you want to connect with, what is it that you do? So, question number 2 is, have you essentially, placed a banner that will, pique the interest of your ideal audience from across the aisles, causing them to come over and visit your trade show booth? And we'll go a little bit more into details later on what I mean by this, but ultimately, are you telling your prospective contacts who you are, who you're looking for, how can you help somebody, or what is it that you actually are doing? Okay. Question number 3, have you kind of placed the skirt on the table of the booth that shows, who you are? Do you actually explain, what is it that you do and how you can actually help somebody? Question number 4, have you placed brochures on your table? Have you actually used the about section where you essentially are going to captivate the attention of your audience as they are kind of going by? Because people are looking at your profile constantly. And if you're not really, if they look at it and it just kind of looks more like a resume where you kind of tell them, all the things that you have done, but it doesn't really tell them, how you can help them and how they can engage with you, you're kind of wasting that time and effort on, and the, the asset that LinkedIn has allowed you to do and put it out there. And, last is, are you working your trade show booth daily? Are you leaving it empty? Which all but guarantees that, your ideal audience, the people that are, walking up the aisles every single day will walk right by, past and maybe go to competitor if you're looking at for an investment deal or whatever capacity that you're in. You want to make sure that you are letting everybody that's passing past your booth know what it is that you do and how they can engage with you and, what it is that you can do with them. So when you're thinking about LinkedIn, think about it, if you had to go and wanted to be in a trade show, you would have spent a lot of time and effort of setting up your booth and everything. And if you're not there, then, you're wasting all of that opportunity. So I want you to think about LinkedIn in the same way. And again, if you do have any questions, Huong, I'm not sure if you're monitoring the questions, but yeah, if anybody's asking questions, we can maybe go and even open it up later on and see if people can go and ask them and I can, speak with them a little bit more. Yes, but if you have any questions about this, you need to start to think about LinkedIn in a different way. It's not a social network. It's more of a networking. It's a giant, like I said, it's a giant database. Essentially, it's a trade show where you have the opportunity to go out there and meet people from all different walks of life. So ultimately, today perception is about everything, and based on what your trade show booth looks like today, like I said, positioning is everything. Are you perceived as an investor in real estate? Are you perceived as an authority in your field? Are you positioned as an influencer? people are looking at your profile, whether you know it or not. And there's actually a way, if you do have the premium, there is a way to see how many individuals are looking at your profile. But you know what, when you meet someone, they will automatically go and Google your name, and guess what? They will go and look at your profile, and the first thing that they will see is on the Google page, when they're looking at your name, even if you don't have a website or anything like that, is your LinkedIn profile. And I guess the question is your profile actually attracting the people that you are want to attract, or are they just passing by? So as I mentioned to you, I primarily work with financial professionals, and most financial advisors that we work with, when you look at their profile, usually it says financial advisor. And I usually tell them, listen, if you have a profile like that, it's kind of like the kiss of death, because nobody wants to work with a financial advisor. Okay. What you need to do is you need to put something there as far as, I help, IT professionals retire 3 or 5 years early, so that they can have peace in retirement. There's all sorts of things, and you can go and change the headline. And again, as we go through this, we will go in a little bit more details. What are some of those things that you need to go take a look at? But ask yourself the question, if you go and look at your profile, what is it projecting? The other thing too, I'm not sure if some of you have websites or if you have portfolios that you have built and what you're doing, but are you speaking the same language? When somebody goes and looks at your, and again, I'm going to kind of pick on financial advisors a little bit. Often when we start working with advisors, we go and take a look at all of their, social media presence, all that real estate that's sitting online. And often we go look at their LinkedIn profile, and yeah, it looks more like a resume. It talks about all the things that they have done, all the jobs that they had. And then we go and look at their Facebook account, and they're talking about all of their personal stuff. Doesn't really talk about things, how they can go and help individuals. Even if they have a business page, maybe they already talks about that they help with young families. And then they have a website where they talk about that they help business owners. Well, unfortunately, there is no congruency. All of these things are kind of confusing their clients. What you want to do is, if there is a specific thing that you do, you need to make sure that all of your virtual assets, where it might be your LinkedIn profile, Facebook, your website, talk all the same language and is talking to the right audience, to the right individuals, that you can actually go out there and build the relationships. And often, unfortunately, I see that people get more confused by going to, again, picking on financial advisors, to their profiles, and then they wonder, how come it's so difficult for me to go and help people when they don't engage me? Well, part of that is because everything is kind of really confusing. So ultimately what it comes down to, when you're looking at the revenue is all in the relationships. And even for you, as I mentioned, LinkedIn is kind of the best tool for you as an investor to really build relationships, if your profile is optimized and with the right audience. Again, if it's not optimized, you might be connecting with the wrong audience. The prospective opportunities will be walking right past and going to someone else. So you also need to essentially remember that your LinkedIn profile is not so much about selling, it's about building relationships. Again, going back to the trade show example, the smart vendors don't try to sell their products right away, but instead they ask questions about, and they try to engage those individuals about what is the interest, why are they there, what are they doing, what are they looking for. And essentially, if they came out running at the trade show saying, hey, buy this, buy that, and maybe you have been at trade shows where people are really pushing, most people walk right past there. Nobody wants to be sold, but people are buying all the time. So when you think about anything you do online, you cannot go and try to sell something to them. I use the example, one of the coaches that I worked with, he said, and we're kind of talking about marketing, building relationships. It's kind of like, marketing is like kissing. You need to have both parties leaning in. And so often we see people making mistakes on social media where they're trying to go in too fast. They kind of try to go for that kiss, maybe even before the date. And, that other individual is leaning backwards. Not only is it uncomfortable, but you maybe have missed that opportunity where, that individual now feels like you're trying to push something on them where they're not really interested in that. So I want you to think about this, that really when you're on LinkedIn, it's all about building the relationships and making sure that, again, you're doing things strategically. Now, Now, I know that ultimately you probably want to build relationships on LinkedIn with either the, and again, I usually talk about this. There's three types of relationships you can build on LinkedIn. You can build a connection with your ultimate client. So again, you as an investor, you might not have somebody that's essentially your client, or you might not be using LinkedIn to go and look for maybe people to go and rent your property, but ultimately it's kind of your client. The next one is partner or centers of influence, or maybe other investors. You may be looking for other joint venture partners, or people that are in the media. Okay, those are really the three types of relationships that you can go out there and build on LinkedIn. And it's important that the way that you approach these relationships is going to be different. If you're talking and attracting somebody that's possible center of influence, or somebody that may be a joint venture partner, you will be approaching them differently than if you're talking to somebody in the in the media. So I want you to be kind of mindful of that there are different strategies for these things. So let me ask you a question. When it comes to LinkedIn, and maybe before this, I'm hoping that you do have a LinkedIn profile. Again, when I often ask financial advisors, why do they have a LinkedIn profile? The answer sometimes come back, well, doesn't everybody supposed to have it? You know what? There has to be some type of a practical and tactical, relationship marketing plan. There has to be a reason why you're doing what you're doing, and what it is that you are trying to accomplish when you are on LinkedIn. Because ultimately, you know what? You need to go out there and optimize your profile, but there has to be a purpose for that. So let me just kind of go through, I have put this, 6 steps to, optimizing your LinkedIn profile. The first part really comes down to building credibility. Again, having presence on LinkedIn, especially with a very informative profile, helps to, lend the credibility of your name online. Centers of influence, investors, like other professionals, are looking to work with you. As I mentioned, they will probably go and Google your name, because that's going to be part of their due diligence. If they have no idea who you are, they'll be, hoping to find something meaningful about you online. And again, LinkedIn is a perfect place to go and start that. So I'm not sure if you do have websites, or if you have some other online assets where you can start to educate individuals about you. LinkedIn is that perfect sales page where you can go and tell them, again, don't use it as a resume, use it more as a place where you can inform someone, because they will go and search you on LinkedIn. Now, again, if your profile is kind of bare bone, empty, generic, or otherwise really, there are, say, wasted space with a really real value, you may lose some credibility as a result of that. So really think about it, and we're going to go into this in a little bit deeper, the things and the places where you really need to go and build something that can really help that potential high value connection know that you're serious, and that will give them a sense of confidence in your ability. If they can actually go and look at your profile and get an understanding who it is that you are and how you can actually help someone. So I've just kind of took a picture of my profile, and there are a couple of things that we essentially want to go and look at. So again, I'll assume that everybody that's listening, you already have your profile on LinkedIn. If you don't, you can just go to linkedin.com and start a profile. But ultimately, there are a few things that you need to focus on most. The first one really comes down to your picture. The profile picture is really important, because ultimately that is going to be the first thing that somebody sees. And again, I have seen a lot of profiles where somebody, they have a picture in here that, maybe the picture is missing. They didn't even put the picture on there. They might have a picture where they have taken it where they were at a wedding party and they're all in a suit, and there was like bouquet of flowers behind them. Again, it's very distracting. When it comes down to having your pictures, kind of as I have the example, I have it very clear, professional looking headshot, maybe have a white background behind, so there is nothing kind of distracting from it. Again, you want it to be inviting. Again, you want it to essentially represent your brand. So again, I deal with professionals, so mine is a little bit more professional. If you're an investor, or maybe you have, properties, or you have, portfolio of properties, again, your picture needs to represent your brand from the perspective of, who you are. Don't use a logo or something like that. Use a headshot where it's just you without any background, on there. The other part of it is, and again, this is where if you do have a portfolio of properties, and this might be something, Huong, that you want to think about, or even if you have spoken at events, this picture in the background, this is essentially kind of like your billboard. And right now we're kind of using this attracting financial advisors into a Facebook group that we have. But if you're a speaker, for an example, or you have spoken, have a picture of you speaking in the background in here. What that will do is even, it would put you as an authority figure. When you're on a stage and you're speaking with a microphone, people right away will understand that you have authority. They will look at you different. And again, marketing is all about perception. So, that's something that you want to think about. Don't have a picture that, is the generic one where, it's kind of blue with some squiggly lines on it. Show that you've actually put some time and effort into, your real estate that is on, that is on LinkedIn. And, change that picture in the background to, like I said, if you're a speaker, have you speaking in front of a group. If you have a portfolio, you can maybe go and have a picture of some of the houses, again, depending on what the purpose is. So if you're looking for other individuals to invest with you and you already have a portfolio and you're looking at for joint venture partners, that might be a way of showing them that you already have other properties and things. So again, this picture in here is, very valuable real estate. And, in real estate, it's all about location, location, location. Well, this is where it comes down to here. It's all about the pictures and the perception that somebody will have. The next thing that you want to change is your headline. And this is this section right over here. As you can see, there's a couple of hacks that I will teach you in here. Ultimately, I believe LinkedIn, if you're on the desktop, they allow you to have about 120 characters. Again, most individuals have very plain message in here where they might say, I'm the owner of X and Y business, or, I'm a financial advisor, or I'm a realtor. Ultimately, what you want to put in here, this is your most valuable real estate online, because this is the first thing beside your picture that people that are looking at your profile will see, even when they go and search for you. So what you want to do and what you want to put in here in the headline, you want to inform individuals, who do you work with or who do you want to connect with? How do you help them? And how do you resolve some of their problems and challenges? And again, this webinar, I don't have enough time to kind of dive into all of the different formulas and things that you can go and put there. But ultimately, if you can look in mine, I help life insurance and financial professionals create strategies and systems to attract consistent flow of premium clients so that they can multiply and compound their revenue and gain predictability and control in their business. So it speaks towards my audience. It tells them how I help them and the problem that I resolve for them. Okay. Now, some of you savvy individuals that are watching this have noticed this is more than 120 characters in here. If you actually go and change the headline on your mobile, you can go and put more characters on there like I have here. If this was done on a desktop, I could probably only go to about here. On your mobile, you're actually able to put more characters into the headline so that it gives a little bit bigger picture to your, to your audience. So I want you to think about that. What can you go and put in here? Maybe if you have some time, we might just go on LinkedIn and kind of show you some examples of some other individuals, what they have put on. But how can you go? This right here, and that's why I took a picture of this, is the most valuable real estate that you have online. And again, you all understand that, how valuable real estate is. Well, your digital real estate is also valuable. Now, some of the other sections that you can go and go on there, and you know what, I'm just going to switch to my LinkedIn profile in here. There are other sections that are in here that you can do. You can feature certain articles or videos and things in here on your profile. Again, if you do post, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that, there's activities and things that you can have here. Fill out your experience. Again, fill out the things that you want somebody to actually know about you, and put as much experience that's relevant to the audience that you want. LinkedIn really promotes your profile once you have at least 3 different experiences in here. And again, you want to make them relatable to each other. There's also what education that you actually have, if there's any certificates or skills, and then recommendations and endorsements if you had that from someone. So, these are the things that ultimately that you want to go and you want to go through. So again, there is not enough time to go into details and all these things, but essentially the next thing is, once you optimize your profile and you really focus on the, on your picture, your headline, and, your about section, and really talk about all those things, you now want to create what I would call investor personas. I mean, ultimately, if you're looking at for individuals, and again, I was kind of doing this with thinking, if you're looking at for other investors or JV partners, who are the people that you really want to connect with? And the way that LinkedIn works, there is no way how you can go out there and search according to somebody's, income, or, according to somebody's age. Those searches are more difficult. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to build a, persona, where that means what is the information that you can actually gather. And like I mentioned to you, LinkedIn is a database. Ultimately, it's a database where they have things like somebody's job title or position. You can search for people according to their location. You can search for individuals that work at certain companies that have a certain company size, as far as how many employees they are, all the way from self-employed, 1 to 10 people at a company, 10 to, I think it's 10 to 20, 20 to 50, 50 and more. So those are the things that you can search for. Maybe what is their function? What are some of those things that, what you're looking for? So it works differently, where you cannot really go out there and search somebody according to their income, but start to build the persona of the person that you actually want to build a connection with. What is their job? What location actually looking at? And that way you can start to really narrow down the individuals that you want to connect with. Now, once you connect with them, the next thing is actually making that connection. So once you kind of search for those individuals and start to connect with them, what you really want to do is you want to search out the individuals, because there are essentially 3 levels of connections. There is the connections you are connected at a first level, and then there are second and third level connections. Okay, the best way that I can explain this is your first level connections, all of their first level connections are your second level connections. Okay, and the difference between first and second level connection is the fact that you can only message people that are in your first level connections. The people that are at your second level connection, the only way you can communicate with them is send them an invitation to connect with you, or you can send them, and this is a little bit more advanced, an in-mail message if you have the premium account, where LinkedIn gives you 20 in-mails per month, where you can send messages to people that you're not even connected to. But ultimately, if you have first level connections, those are the ones that you can connect with. And as soon as you connect with them and they become your first level connection, in theory, you can send as many messages as you want. You're not limited to what you can go and send them. Again, I would go and put some type of a strategy for it. What is it that you want to do? And again, it goes a little bit beyond this webinar as far as the type of messages and things that you want to send them. But what it really comes down to is you can send them message on LinkedIn. And then also, as soon as you connect with somebody, you now have access to their email address. Now, there's few things that LinkedIn have changed back in November of 2018, I believe it was, where you were used to download the email addresses from all of the connections you've had on LinkedIn. Now they have changed that, where now people actually have to kind of give you a permission, or give LinkedIn the permission to post their email on board. There are different ways around it. There's different software and things where you can go there. And again, goes a little bit beyond the scope of this presentation, that we can maybe chat later, how you can automate some of these things. But what I really want you to really think about is, what is really the reason why you want to connect with somebody once you build that kind of avatar. And when you do send out a connection to someone, what you actually want to do is you want to put a little note there as far as why do you want to connect with them. Because again, you want to make it all personal. You really want to go and build a relationship with someone. And if there is somebody that you really want to connect with, you need to go and give them a reason why you want to connect with them. Okay. Now, the next step is you know what? There are some groups that you can actually go and connect with. Okay, and ultimately, you know, if you're in real estate, there is a lot of, you know, real estate groups. Just go into, you know what? I'm just looking at time. You know what? I think we have time for this. If I go in here and I just go and search real estate, okay. When I go in here, when I go into the search, it will go and put this bar over here. So you can search for people that are in real estate, but you can also go in here and see what groups are in real estate. So there is tons of real estate groups. As you can see in here, Pete Assen's Real Estate Networking Group, okay, Investor Strategies. There's over 500,000 members that are in that group. So all you need to do is you just need to click on this, and I can come in here and I can ask to be invited into the group. Okay, so what it really comes down to, not only can you use LinkedIn to connect with specific individuals, there's a lot of groups that you can go and join. Now you can join up to 100 groups. There's a few things that once you do join a group that you now have access to all of the members that are part of the group. You can engage with them, you can message them, and again, build a relationship with them. So this is another way of how to keep on growing your network, especially if you're in real estate. There really isn't a way to search for individuals that are maybe, you know, investors that are thinking about real estate and investing. I mean, you can go and search in the search bar, you know, investor in real estate, to search maybe and build the relationships with those individuals. But the groups that are in real estate are a great asset, because those are the people that are of the same framework. Those are the people that are essentially thinking the same things that you're thinking about. Okay. Now, the next part is, you know, use LinkedIn actively. Okay. Now, really what it comes down to really make this work for yourself and become that go-to person in your field. You know, if you're an investor and you want to build those relationships with other individuals, you can also do this by posting content. And when it comes to posting content, you know, I always tell, again, working with advisors, I tell them, if you have a specific market you're working with, make sure that the content you're posting is very direct and very specific to that audience. Okay. I look at it this way. When you look at internet, when you look at LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, you know, the internet doesn't need any more content. It already has more than enough content. What it does need is a specialized advice to a specific audience. There is too much generic content. Like I mentioned to you, I primarily work with financial advisors. All of my content deals with a specific audience, which is financial professionals, financial advisors. And it speaks about the problems or challenges and help, how they can benefit from what I'm putting in front of them. So if you're going to be on LinkedIn and you're going to start to do, you know, use it to blogging, or, you know, maybe you have a website where you are already putting articles, make sure that those articles are targeted towards a specific audience. That's really the, you know, the key. You know, they keep on talking about content is king. You know, I tend to look at it that way, that relevant content is king. Because if you're just posting content for the sake of posting content, you might actually start to alienate a lot of, you know, individuals. Just kind of like I mentioned before, if somebody searches for your name and they look at your LinkedIn profile that speaks about certain audience, they look at your website or maybe your Facebook, and they're all talking about a different message, you know what? The confused mind, you know, that doesn't have clarity will not move forward. And this is where you really need to make sure that all of the information, everything that you're doing online is actually, you know, kind of coordinated. It speaks all the same language, speaks kind of the same message. And that's really important when you're doing things online, especially on LinkedIn. So I would encourage you, if you're going to go and do content, start dealing with content. And again, you know, using videos are becoming very, you know, popular. Video has been around for a while, but recording videos, again, I don't have enough time in this session to go into all those details, but use videos to go and speak to individuals. And again, make sure that it's very relevant to your audience. Make sure that when you put the content out there, that it speaks to that specific audience. And you know what? Number 6, you can actually use LinkedIn to seek out personal referrals. Again, I think this will be key for you as you're searching for different individuals. there is a way how you can just reach out and connect with that person. But if you now go on LinkedIn and you find out that the connection, that kind of ideal person you want to connect with, maybe it's a center of influence, knows somebody that you know very well, you can actually ask for an introduction. You can actually ask them to introduce you to that person. And it's a great way to connect with them, because if you're just sending out a connection request to someone, you know what? Yeah, you can put that message in there where you tell them why you want to connect with them, but you can't really speak with them. You can't really give them a good, really great reason to, connect with them, because in that connection message, I believe there's only 300 characters you can put in. So there's only that much that you can say. But if actually you know somebody that knows the contact that you want to connect with, and you reach out to them and you ask them to do an introduction, you know what, maybe they can go and include your name in a conversation on LinkedIn when you go out there and send a message to them. That way you can start the conversation. So it's no different. Maybe you have done introduction in the past where you have emailed somebody, just through an email, and you have emailed introduction that way, given the phone number and all this. The same thing can happen on LinkedIn. So I want you to think about, again, what is the strategy? Who are you actually connecting with? Often when I work with financial professionals, we're going more after, let's say, business owners, executives, or CEOs of companies. We're doing it a little bit more on a way, hey, how do we start to go out there and build an audience? How do we start to build a pool of potential clients for that advisor? Your strategy, if you're an investor, is going to be a lot more strategic, okay? And I want you to think about it this way. You know what? There's really a gold mine in there. And I think, Huong, you mentioned that at the beginning, and I just love the way that people think the same way. I already had it in here. LinkedIn ultimately is a gold mine, okay? Once you understand the power of LinkedIn and you learn how to connect with your, target audience, you will need to have the understanding that, LinkedIn is truly a gold mine of an opportunity. And you know what, I just kind of went through the list and I was thinking, so who are the type of people that you can go and build the relationships with? So again, if you're an investor, you can go and build a relationship with realtors, okay? You can go out there and reach out to, realtors and, start to build that relationship. Again, position yourself as somebody, not only, hey, I want to use you as far as to, buy or sell my property, but how do you actually start to build a bit of a joint venture with someone? Because again, as you're talking with people and you are engaging with investors, there might be a way of you doing an introduction to the realtor. And again, it's all about networking. And Huong, you kind of mentioned, how do you even use LinkedIn to, start to build, residual income? How do you start to build other kind of business opportunities and things? And again, it all starts with building a relationship. I mean, sale cannot happen unless you have a relationship with someone. So, you know what, build relationship with the realtors. Maybe there are some, wholesalers or investors, okay? Maybe there are, property insurance providers that you can go and build relationships with, title companies, closing agents, real estate attorneys. There are some bird dog opportunities, referral partners, appraisers, handyman contractors, property managers, accountants, tax specialists. Again, the list is really endless. And what I want you to think about, when you know who you want to connect with, and this is really the huge advantage of LinkedIn, is that everybody will tell you what they do. You remember when I mentioned to you from the perspective of on your LinkedIn profile, if I go back to my, profile, most people have it defaulted in here where they tell you exactly. They will, well, let me just do a search. You know what? I go and search for an account.
There's about 10 minutes left. Okay. And I do have a couple of questions to ask you too.
Yeah, no, perfect. So I'm just about done. So if you go in here, and we just go, here's somebody that says senior accountant. Well, what does it really mean? So, you know what, for you as a marketer and looking for the individuals that you want to work with, it's great because everybody tells you who they are and what is it that they do. Okay. But you can also use this for, as an example for yourself, where you can go and change your headline where you are actually telling them what you do. So we're actually right on the last part. So you know what, if you have any questions beyond this, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Daniel Hanzelka, or you can send me an email on resetyourmoney@gmail.com. And yeah, Huong, you mentioned that you had a question, or somebody has a question. So I'm pretty well done to my presentation.
Okay, yeah, awesome. That was great content, Daniel. It's nice to get a refresher, but then also learn some new stuff about LinkedIn that I never really thought about before. And so I loved how you used the trade booth analogy, because that really hits it home, right? As to how we can use LinkedIn in growing our real estate portfolio. So I love that analogy. So here's the first question. The first one is, when do you move the conversation or the relationship out of LinkedIn? So you've already established the conversation, the connection. Do you stay in LinkedIn, or do you move it off LinkedIn at some point? And when?
So the answer to that is as soon as possible. Okay. So as soon as you possibly can. Again, often you do want to engage them on LinkedIn into a conversation, but yeah, you do want to take them off. So if somebody does engage with you, and again, you have access to their email. Most people are on their email every single day. On LinkedIn, not so much. They might be there once a week, twice a week. You know, sometimes people don't go there for weeks at a time. So the quicker you can go and get their information, okay, and move it off of LinkedIn, the better it is. Again, you kind of have to figure out what the strategy is. But when we work with advisors, we move the conversation sometimes almost right away off of LinkedIn from the perspective. You connect with somebody and they're kind of the ideal person and you truly know and feel that you can help them. Well, if you have their email and their phone number, there's nothing wrong with grabbing the phone number and giving them a call and just reaching out to them saying, hey, John, we just recently connected on LinkedIn. I just thought I'd give you a call and, just find out a little bit more about you and your business. Again, you don't want to call them, tell them, hey, I want to sell you something. You want to go and work on building that relationship. So when you do take it off of LinkedIn, it's more like, hey, we just connected on LinkedIn. I want to learn more about you. Can you tell me a little bit more? Again, somebody's LinkedIn profile is a wealth of information. You know what, their past experiences, the school that they went to, maybe some of the interests that they have. And people like to talk about themselves. So if you do go and take the conversation off of LinkedIn, mention something from, about their profile, from their profile, something that you have common. Again, don't make it all about making that sale. You kind of have to make them lean in. Like I mentioned, marketing is kind of like kissing. You want them to lean in as you're leaning in so that you can meet. Unfortunately, most people kind of try to go for, using the analogy, going for the kiss too fast, and they're repelling people as opposed to getting them to, to get attracted.
Yeah. So the other question I had was on your profile, on your banner. I noticed that you made reference to your talks, like on.
Yeah, to the Facebook group that we have. Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, is there a way to do that in LinkedIn so that you're not getting them to leave LinkedIn and going to Facebook?
Yeah, well, of course. Again, we're doing this, put it that way. We have a Facebook group. The Facebook groups are great. Again, LinkedIn just recently introduced where you can actually send out invitations and everything through the groups. They were really big about 4 years ago. LinkedIn made some changes and they're not, again, from a marketing perspective, they're not utilized as much. A lot of people go in there now, and I'm going to use it that they're spamming, where they just keep on listing buy my stuff. But it's a great place to go out there and search and find individuals. So 100%, whenever you're using links and things, you can go and use this. Again, it's like a billboard, and that's really what it comes down to. Again, this picture in here depends on what is it that you want to use it for. Like we're heavily, engaging with people, and we wanted to bring them to our Facebook group where we can engage them more. So that's why we're using this. In the past, like I said, we've had pictures where it was, just me speaking in front of a group. It's all about authority. Again, just all depends on what you want to do with it. Like, you've shown that you've written books, that you have these things. Again, those are the things that, marketing is all about perceptions, right? So again, to answer your question, you can pretty well put anything on here, what we're just talking about. Again, it's a real estate that needs to be used in a way that, gets you the results that you want.
Right. Yeah, no, I love the fact that you show how using that space, that banner space, to do additional marketing, right, is a great use of that space, as opposed to just using a generic image that doesn't really give any value. So I.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is, this right here is probably the most valuable real estate online right now, because like I said, when somebody goes and searches your name will come on top because of LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And you need to really inform your potential, investors, partners, whomever that might be,
Yeah.
how you can actually help them.
Perfect. All right. So just a time check. We've got about 4 minutes left in the hour. So Daniel, can you unshare? I'm just going to go back to my presentation. And then we can do the free gift for those who've stayed on until the end.
Okay.
I like the real estate analogy for LinkedIn. Yeah. So do I, Simon. There's a wealth of like that data is there, right? And we just have to know how to filter it and find those connections that can help us.
Exactly. And again, I wasn't sure who's all going to be on here, so it's difficult to get very specific. Like if I knew that they were specific, we can even go and do some examples and things. But yeah, all it is a database. Like that's really the biggest takeaway that I want you to have. It's a database. The way you use the database, right? That's what's going to give you the results.
Okay. All right. So Daniel, can you click on the top of your image or my image and enable participant sharing? I pass that over to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just looking at. Okay, so make you a host. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Awesome. So thank you for those of you who are still on. Okay, that's so much content there. So just before we all sign off, I wanted to give everybody the gift that I promised. Okay, and so the gift is one, you get a free copy of the Secrets to Wealth book that I did with Brian Tracy, along with a free e-copy of the Path to Mortgage Freedom in 10 Years. And on top of that, you also get access to our online academy for free until we launch it. So you get it for about a month and a half for free. Okay. And this academy has 20 plus years of all of my knowledge in this online academy with videos, PDFs, Excel sheets with formulas, Word documents, all the legal documents that I've used in the last 20 years. They are all on there, and you basically get it for free until we launch. Okay, so in order to get this gift though, you just need to go to this website here, which is my online calendar, and book a 15-minute talk with me, just so that we can maximize your benefit of what you're going to take away from the online academy. Okay, and so just book a free 15-minute conversation with me, and we're good to go. And then you get access to that online academy. Okay, so I will dump that into the chat box as well, so that you could book that time. Okay, so we are about 30 seconds to go. So Daniel, I'm going to let you do the sign off. Is there any sort of last minute comments you would like to say to our participants that are on the line?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just, again, look at, LinkedIn as a, resource, and again, as a database. And, there really is a gold mine in there. Again, depending on who you want to connect with, those connections are on there, especially in this time that we're in right now, where we're all kind of cooped up and, social gathering events are not available. What really utilize LinkedIn for that. So, I would encourage everyone. And again, if you have any questions about this, just reach out and let's have a conversation and see how you can utilize it more.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel, thank you so much. There was just so much great content, and just the way you laid it out with that analogy and about like trade booth, and then the kissing analogy, like I just, it made it so easy to understand. So thank you so very much. Okay. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Okay. Bye.
Right. Bye. Thanks.
Bye, Daniel.